Hi, welcome to the Super Bowl edition of Legal Quilts. I figure since the game isn't on till later, y'all might want to do a little quilting. All right, that's what I plan on doing until I start watching, all the pregame shows. So what are we doing today? We're finally quilting the Tempestry quilt. All right, it's all sandwiched and ready to go. What are we going to do? I made a line graph of the actual stripes. Okay, what these stripes are, I just put in the numbers and created a line graph. You can see right here and a little bit here how it was a line graph. There was a mean line along here that I erased most of it, but I didn't want to erase the line I actually wanted, so some of it remains. What you're going to do is follow this extra dark line. It's pretty simple to follow because I blew it up really big, and if you're good, you can just trace it on here. Not, we're going to do it with quilt paper. This is going to be available as a PDF for free on my website along with the pattern as soon as I ever get the corrections onto it, because I found out while I was making it and measuring out fabric and everything, I wasn't exactly right on everything. So I will correct all of that stuff. All right. So we have this. All right. What you're going to do is you're going to take this basic pattern, print it out. It's on landscape. You can just print it on your regular printer on regular paper and cut it out. It doesn't have to be cut perfectly. You can see I'm not the best thing. You don't want to cut too close to the lines though. You want to leave a little room around it, but it doesn't have to be cut perfectly. Then you're going to cut your quilt papers to roughly the same size. It can be bigger, but it cannot be smaller. Otherwise it won't work right. All right. Then you're going to stack up all your quilt papers, and you can do, I only did a few of them. I like to do them a few at a time and then cut and do what needs to be done. You can do all the ones you want at once, or you can do them a few at a time. There's no quilt police. Do what works best for you. So you stack up the quilt papers, which can be hard sometimes because the paper likes to curl. It's a little slippery because it's so thin. And you just take your pattern here and lay it on the paper. Then you're going to come over to your machine where you have already set it up for free motion quilting. Okay? And let me show you what I'm doing here. There's the machine. You've already set it up for free motion quilting. And then with no thread in the machine, there's no thread here, nothing's threaded. You put your needle down, all right? Alrighty. And you just follow the pattern. Follow the pattern, putting holes all the way through everything. This is why you don't want to do too many at once. Even if you cut all your papers at once, don't do more than 5 or 6. You won't get your holes through there, okay? And you just follow your pattern. All right? Gently, slowly follow the pattern. This is a pretty simple one to follow. There's not a lot of sudden moves, okay? And then you take it out. Oops. And your papers, I don't know if I can get this to show up here, but your papers are all perforated, okay? I don't think it really shows up there, but trust me, they're perforated. Let's see if I put the white paper behind it. You put the white paper behind it. You can kind of see how it's perforated, okay? Not really. All right, and then you just take your pattern, you take one of the papers, right? So you've got all your papers perforated, all right? You're gonna use these. Why don't we just do it all on this? Because regular paper doesn't tear off as well. and it doesn't come out easily, so it's not as good to use. So put that aside for when you need to do more of the basic ones, all right? Then the next step, we're going to put it on the quilt. Now we're going to put the quilt papers onto the quilt, all right? And what I like to do, because sometimes I can't always see the lines under the light of the sewing machine, as you can see, I just took my disappearing pen and traced over it. Just makes it a little easier. If you need to do this, do it. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Missed it in a few spots there. See, even while tracing the line, I mess up. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, that one's better. Okay. All right. Then you're going to want to lay this on here. And now remember, we're working from, this is the left side, even though it looks right on your what you're seeing here, because everything's reversed. These ends, look to the pointy part. You see these pointy ones? Okay, that's going to be on your right. Make sure the pointy ones always face right and up. Right and up. All right? Because this matters, because otherwise the graph won't look right. All right? And then you just take it and you lay it on. Now, where do you start? I like to start in the middle and work up and out. That way your fabric moves outwards, and if it wrinkles on the outside as you're working, or the back wrinkles, you can move it, it moves outwards. If you work inwards and you haven't gotten it smooth, you get a wrinkle right down the middle and you got to start all over again. And I just recently did that on one and I was not happy. So, also don't pin them all at once, because again, if it's not smooth, you're going to get a wrinkle. That's what happened to me. I tried to do them all at once and rushed it, and I got wrinkles, and so I had to rip out stuff, and it took me twice as long. So start somewhat in the middle, although it's tough with this. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can connect these, which is where quilt papers really come in handy, because you can just move this over each other and, you know, trim a little bit so that the lines meet up, and then pin them that way. All right, you're going to want to pin. You can't use clips for this because you're working in the middle of your quilt, so you got to have your pins. This is the other reason to do it a little bit at a time, because as you're moving your quilt around while you're quilting, you get you get stabbed with the pins, and that's not fun. So I'm starting about the middle of the quilt, about line 26 or so. What I'm going to do is quilt every other row, all right? So starting roughly the middle, you're going to lay your quilt paper down, all right? And you're just going to stick enough pins in it. See how I'm laying it down here? Can y'all see that? I need to fold this up a little bit and move it over so y'all can see. You just lay it on here and you pin it down with enough pins that it'll stay put. All right. I'm only going to do one of these today because y'all don't want to watch me and y'all want to watch Super Bowl stuff. All right. So just do it with enough pins that everything stays put. Probably, because this is so long, you want 4 just in the corners really quick to hold it down. All right. And you don't have to even go through all 3 layers. Really, this is just holding it in place. All right. Then the next step is going to be quilting it. I'm going to be using blue because I decided I wanted ocean blue. All right. So I'm going to show you how you then quilt. So you've pinned it on. Maneuver your quilt underneath your needle. And that's kind of hard because it's bigger, and even with a deep throat on your domestic machine, it's not going to fit there. I slide it under and then I roll it up until I get to where I am. Obviously, as you go out and up, it gets easier. And you can turn it and everything. As long as your paper is oriented right, it doesn't matter what angle you quilt at, okay? You see the paper's pinned on here. It's positioned under the needle. And then you just slowly lower your needle to the start and follow your line. All right, making sure everything stays smooth. All right, whoops, there we go. Reposition that pin. Let me see. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't like it when I fake touch it. Oops. Always put your presser foot down. Mine warns me a lot. And then just slowly, slowly. It's heavy, it's hard. Take breaks. But remember, your feed dogs aren't down. If you jerk the fabric, you're going to get a jerk on your sewing. All right? So just take your time. Maneuvering slowly. I'm doing this backwards because it makes it a little easier. I might do the next one forwards. Again, it doesn't matter as long as you're aligned correctly. And as you get going, you know what you're doing. And the advantage to, and the thing with having to put the papers in and hole punch them, perforate them, is your hands get used to the movements you have to make your pattern. Same thing with tracing over your perforations so you can see them better. Your hand knows the shape. When I took a free motion quilting class, the instructor said, always draw your pattern first. And I'm like, I can't draw. But what it does is it starts your muscle memory. So as you're doing this, even if you do a few of them at a time, you'll start to notice it gets easier to follow the pattern because your hands know what to do. Now there's mitts out there, there's sliders, there's hoops and all those things. You know what? If they work for you, go for it. If they don't, don't. I'm thinking of getting a hoop. I'm not sure about the mitts because my hands have enough problems. But, and again, as you move out from the side and you don't have all this bulk you're working with, it gets a lot easier. So I may the next one, because I'm creating more bulk over here, I may do the next one where the bulk gets, I may do the next one from left to right where it pulls the bulk away. But you experiment with what works, because especially on something like this, there's gonna be a lot of them. And when you get to the end of your paper, whether you've connected the whole line or you're just doing a single one like this, you just do a couple of stitches to hold it in place and cut, and you're done. And then I'm not going to pull it all the way out, but when you're done, okay, let me move this around so you can see what I'm doing a little bit. You've sewed it down, okay, but you're on the perforations, and then there's more needles with the perforation. Take your pins out as you go. Again, that's mostly to keep from stabbing yourself, because this paper is not going to move now. This paper is done. All right, it's not going anywhere. I'm not sure where I put my pin cushion. There we go. Keep your pin cushion handy and where you can get at it, because you're going to be taking the pins out as you go. Now, if you've done a whole bunch of them, you can rip the paper, being very gentle to not rip your stitches out. See, it just rips around the perforation. I don't do it all, although, wow, this got most of it, okay? Because I found as you're handling the quilt, you're quilting other pieces, places, you're doing the binding, pieces start flaking off anyway, and so by the time you're done, you just have to go back, and there's a couple of small pieces left here. You just have to go back and rip those out. And if there's pieces you can't rip out without being worried about tearing out the stitches, that's easy enough. This is so thin, just get a washcloth and wipe it, and the water dissolves it. That's the other reason to use this thin stuff. It rips easier, it dissolves faster with just a light rubbing with a washcloth. And that's it. Would you like to? And that's how it looks. Let me see if I can do this. Let me see. I know it's all bulk under here. Let me roll that out a little bit so I got some maneuvering room. Okay. And that's it. See, it's all quilted here. Yeah, it's going to show up really well, so any mistakes I make are going to show up really well because it's in blue, but that's life, okay? There's no quilt police. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But that's it. That's how you quilt the Tempestry quilt. And that's it for the Tempestry quilt. The next step is just binding it, and I already did one on binding. There's plenty of other YouTube videos about that out there. So the next one will be, so I'll put the notes for how to bind in there. I'm not going to show you how to do that again because there's only so much you can do. So that's it for the Tempestry quilt. Like I said, this is going to go up on the website eventually. It's not going to be there today. And the Tempestry project will have it. Please visit my website. I do have a lot of things on there. And also, don't forget my Ko-fi page. The links will be in the show notes to both of those. My Ko-fi page to support me so I can keep doing this. And the cool thing about the Ko-fi page is if you support me, I also make a block for charity. And when I get enough, I make a whole quilt and it goes to charity. So it's double good. You get to help me and I help others through charity. The next one, we're going to get back to the Bargello block quilt and the reindeer panel. I just got to still finish the blocks. I've had thoughts. But that's it for now. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I hope your team wins. You know, just enjoy it. And I'll see you next time.